Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Well, today we've got an interesting one in. We have a Penn International 65. It's the round bait caster. And boy, something's just not going right inside that reel. So we're going to try and understand what that is and see if we can't help it out. It belongs to Tom. Tom sent it in, said it's rough running. It certainly is. It feels like there's something stuck in the gear teeth here. But I'm not sure. It also looks like it's been a while since it's been serviced. We have quite a bit of film and corrosion setting in on the metal parts and the bars. And well, that oftentimes contributes to something inside the case just kind of jamming up. So first thing you want to do is test to see if you have a functioning free spool and release, which we do. And folks say, how does that stuff all get inside there? Well, these can't be sealed reels. Because of the way that the spool spins and the frame, there's a constant gap at the end of the spools. And water over time just seeps in. It finds the places. And when it finds the places, it carries with it the micro sands and salts. And over time, well, kind of jams it up. So we're going to do at least today, we'll do the diagnosis of it. And if it can be repaired, if it's just a lot of dirt and debris that can get cleaned up, we'll go ahead and do that, and we'll show you how to complete the service of this reel. If not, we'll leave you off with what the problem is and what the resolution is. If it's a broken part, we'll get underneath that as well. So I just put a little bit of penetrating oil on there. We're going to start by removing the exterior pieces and parts. As I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel, particularly if you like the art of reel service and repair. I try to cover an awful lot of bases with this. I cover saltwater and freshwater. I cover the spinning reels and the like. And if those are things that interest you in terms of learning more about, then I would encourage you to subscribe. If you do subscribe, please use that notification button. It will let you know when I'm posting. Well, what I've done here is I've taken off the nut cap that holds back the nut on the handle from slipping, and I removed the handle nut. Now I'm removing the handle, and I'm trying to clean up the pieces and parts as I take them off. You could do it one of 2 or 3 or 4 different ways, I'm sure. You probably have 100 different ways to do it, but what I'd like to do is when I take a reel off, clean the parts right up. Some folks like to put them aside and clean them all at a later time. With me, if I can do that right when I take them off, it helps in me examining the piece and part, and well, just making it easier for me when it comes time to reinstall. We took the handle off. There's a little tension washer that goes between the handle and the star adjuster, and we can back off the star adjuster. And on the tips of these star adjusters, as I mentioned, each one of them has a little bit of salt buildup and corrosion starting to set in here. So what I'm using is a 4-0 steel wall. It's a buffing steel wall. It's not a very aggressive one. It's a polishing one. So it's the finest in the lot of measures. And to me, it's just a little bit more abrasion than normal, and when you get something like this with the buildup of the salt on it, sometimes you need to be a little bit more aggressive. It does polish, though it doesn't scar. Okay, when I take my pieces and parts off, they go into a parts tray. That's where you've been seeing me put them. That's so that I can keep track of them, not lose them when it's time to reinstall. We have 2 washers. You can see that they're concave or convex. I'm not sure what the words are. They go rim to rim. And now we have our faceplate here, and that would be what we want to get underneath to see what's going on. The reel is making a tremendous amount of noise. That's not right. It's not a smooth operator. So there's definitely something going on inside the case, and that's what we're trying to find out here. So Tom fishes this all the way down the southern tip of New Jersey, and well, there's all kinds of great fishing going on down there. New Jersey's fortunate to be in the mid-Atlantic coast. We get lots of migrating species. We also get some kind of resident fish as well. And makes for great summertime fishing. And well, the south has a little bit different variety than the north. So if you want to travel just 60 or 70 or 100 miles, you can go catch all kinds of things. All right, just checking that out. There's a little bit of dirt here. One thing that's always good to do while you have this off, move your idler gear. That's the big plastic gear in the back. Make sure all the teeth are there. Roll your assembly over to one side, and then service the line guide pawl before you go too far down. And I'm always worried when I see these types of corrosion. You just don't know, is the pawl going to be stuck in the carrier or things like that, right? So if you can, get there early, check it out. And there's dirt on the pawl. So I think that's going to be the theme here. I think the theme is going to be that we've got some dirt and debris in this reel. It's helping to make all that noise. So I just put a little bit of penetrating oil on there. Now I'm knocking. You can see all of that dirt that just came off the one shoulder. There's dirt from the other shoulder. I'm going to pull that out. Use a cotton swab to clean the inner part of the case. You can roll off the other part. Make sure that the point on the pawls are equal, and that the dirt on the shoulder, which tends to clog into the worm gear, is clean. A way to clean your worm gear then, put some penetrating oil on that. Grab a piece of paper towel or something with the pawl out. Hold that like that. Spin your inner wheel that's going to turn the worm gear, and that'll transfer any dirt and debris that's on that worm gear back onto your paper towel. Clean it up nicely. All right. We've inspected the pawl. We've cleaned the dirt off of the shoulder. Put a drop of oil in there now. Reseat the pawl into the cap. We can get the cap into the line guide itself. Always fun with me because, well, I have big hands. It's always a little bit more difficult to work with on small pieces and parts. All right, there we go. All right, bring that in. As you're screwing this down, you'll probably get a point right there. I got the point, and it seems like it's just doesn't want to tighten down anymore. It means that those two points on your pawl are running up against the high spots rather than being in the low spots. So this is a little bit of an iterative process. You turn it, get it off the high spot by turning the inner idler gear. And then just kind of quarter turn it until you feel that you have it seated. And it takes some practice to have that feel, but right now I think we have it. We do. And now your line guide has been serviced. We can take a look. And when we spun the reel before, the bearings were running fine. I'm just going to oil the bearings. I oil the bearings. I don't grease them. Grease holds dirt. Sometimes complements the bearing. This has an interesting setup for a back end spool. For a brake, you can preset the brakes. There's 4 different settings here depending on how you rotate this collar. I'm going to leave it as it was set. And somebody actually wrote in or called me the other day and says, you know, I got a problem with this reel. It seems to be a design thing. If I spin my reel real fast and then I just jam on the handle to stop it, it continues for a little bit. One, I don't know how we find ourselves fishing in a situation where we reel real fast and then jam it to a stop, but that is an inherent slowing of that back end brake on the spool, and there's nothing you can do about that. Well, the non-gear side part of the plate looks fine. So let's see what's going on in the gear side, which seems to be where all that noise has been. There's 2 screws holding the gear side plate on. This is a good place to tell you to take pictures. If you're working on your reel, you want to see what the reel looks like before you start removing pieces and parts. It's always a good guide, and it can save you tons of effort later on if you forgot where a piece went, or if a piece went flying, or something else happened there. Well, this is kind of interesting. We have one of our yoke springs came out here. Our drag assembly kind of came out. A little unusual. I'm seeing a lot of dirt. That's all I'm seeing. So it could just be that this reel is crying out for some help here. I don't know. We'll find out. There is some dirt and debris. We'll wipe it off the side of the case here. I would say it's been some time since this reel's been serviced. We also have a cut here, and I don't know what's cutting it. It might be hard to see, but right here in this case, somehow that's come off center there and it's cutting. I don't know if it was this thing cutting into it or what it may have been, but make a mental note of that. First thing I like to do is get rid of those 2 springs. Not rid of them, I like to put them into my parts tray because they have a tendency to fly off. This is the inner collar for your anti-reverse. That's all kinds of gunked up. Let's use this. I don't think it was an issue with the anti-reverse clutch, but these are friction-driven clutches, and any kind of dirt debris that gets in the way is going to compromise the anti-reverse system. So we'll just kind of get that old stuff off, and I'm thinking that's probably what's going on in this reel right now. You just have a lot of old dried grease probably impacting the performance of it. Generally speaking, these are very, very well-made reels, and they generally don't get into a lot of trouble with them, but from time to time that happens. See if we can pull the main gear off now. Let's grab that click ratchet. Let's pull off our worm gear, and you can see all the dried grease on that. And the rest of it looks like it should look. Maybe just a little bit of grease on there, lots of dried grease on there. Maybe we're just going to flood that with a penetrating oil. Let that be. I'm going to clean this up. And that you should never have grease like this chunked onto the yoke. So it could be that that's forcing the gear to move, creating a lot of vibration. But this is, it's almost like having sticks and stones in there, right? That just shouldn't be. So we'll clean that off. And the first thing you want to do is you want to just make sure that the pieces and the parts that you have in here aren't damaged. This one's not. Had a lot of grease on it, but it's not damaged. And I'm seeing, like here, we have the teeth are just completely gummed up with this stuff, so that could cause a Rough Rider reaction that we saw. But that's kind of the idea of what you do when you service a fishing reel. You take them all apart, you take a look at all the pieces and parts, you do a good examination of them, you place the worn parts if you find them, get rid of the dirt and debris for sure. This gear is in good condition, just does have a lot of old stuff in it. And it could be as simple as sand got in here or something. We explained before how the water and that will get in behind that case. And maybe that's what happened there. This is your trip ratchet for your free spool. There's a little stud right here on the inside of that trip ratchet. That stud rests in these little grooves. That's what pops it back. And a lot of times that stud gets worn. So if you're finding yourself in a situation where you're not getting it clicked back, there's two things that could be going on. This ratchet, which has a rectangular side to it, the two flats down here may be improperly seated, or the other one is the stud on this little trip lever right here could be worn and rounded over where it doesn't function properly. All right, there's a lot of grease on the yoke, but there's no grease on the case, which is kind of curious. We're just going to oil that down. As I mentioned, we tested this already. It's working, so I'm not too concerned about that. Here's your click ratchet. You want to line that up and seat that properly. And there's a little washer that goes above it. Let's take a moment here then on the main gear. Pull out the pieces. These drag washers appear to have been replaced recently. They're in good condition. Clean out the inside. Still looking for an obvious issue here. Not seeing it. Other than that chunky grease. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to pull through. I'm using that penetrating oil to dissolve it. Pulling through with a hard bristle brush. You can use a toothbrush if you don't have one of these. It's just a dollar store variety. The one that comes in the pack with the brass and the steel wire brushes. Most of the time you don't need the wire brushes, but on occasion maybe you do. But what we're interested in right now is the bristle brush. Okay, I just put the one drag washer back in there. This is not a problem with the drag washers. You heard the mechanical side. I'm just going to put some grease onto the main gear. We can seat our main gear after we seat the pinion gear. First thing we do is put a light coating of grease onto the shoulder here as opposed to that big chunky piece that was there. Don't know why that all accumulated right there, but it did. We can take our pinion gear. There's a side that has the slot on it. That side is going to face the spool. That's what that slot is for. It's going to grab the pin that comes through the spool shaft. This is the pin right there. It's going to grab that pin and hold it so it can turn the spool. So that faces in, just like that. So you should have the flat side facing you. Now we can take our main gear and put that on. And now we should have a 6 drag washer set. We have the first one is inside. Next one up is a flat washer. It's got a rectangular center. It's called a keyed washer. The second of the drag washers goes in. The middle washer is called an eared washer. It has the 2 studs which fit in the slots of the main gear. Next one up is the top side. The last of the keyed washers. So they're alternating in a 6 drag set. Still don't know what might be cutting that case. That just seems a little odd there. We'll grab our 2 springs, bring those on. The cleaned up anti-reverse inner spacer. And I'm a little bit wondering now because there may be a bearing that belongs in here that's not here. So I'm going to stop the video for a moment and see if there's a bearing that's missing in this reel. If that's the case, that could be the cause of why this is running so rough. So I'm going to turn that off at this point and come back after I learn whether it belongs there or not. Okay, I checked the schematic. It says it has a bushing in here. Let's check that out. Does have a bushing in here, and it also said that the bushing can be substituted with the bearing from the 4 Senator. One of the things I'm thinking is maybe this bushing has got an elongated hole in it. Seems like there's a lot of slop, side-to-side play here. Quite a bit. You can see the movement in this. And that might be causing the rough option. Let's take that bearing and see if we have that same issue. No, that's a lot tighter. We're going to substitute the bearing for the bushing. I guess you can actually call it hot rodding because, well, it didn't come with that. It came with that bushing there. Put a little bit of oil on that. There is a tension cap underneath that. I'll put this back together. Alright, we have our springs on the yoke. We have our assembly ready. We can bring this over and place that on there now. Line up all of the holes. Go to your parts tray, get the 2 screws. I'm going to use a screw starter for this because, well, I don't do well with small screws. Thank you to Dick Lackman every time I get the opportunity, because he provided this to me. This is a Klein tool, if you're wondering. It is actually it's a Vaco K23, which I also still believe it's a Klein tool, but could be wrong. Alright, let's put this together here. Yeah, so these rubber bearing bushings can wear, and if they do, that could be why it's cutting the case. Some excessive play in that shaft. Well, hypothesis, we don't know. Alright, we have our 2 concave. They go rim to rim on the outside so that there's actually a gap on the inside of this. And we'll take the star adjuster, put that on. Bring the tension washer over. Handle nut. If you point the tip of the nut to the hole, generally that tie-down cap is going to fit right. Tighten this up. Shot of oil into each of the oil ports on your knobs. Put that aside. So the only thing that mechanically didn't look right was an oversized hole in that bushing on the side case. That's kind of unusual. Let's see if it still makes that noise. What noise? The only noise we have here is a little squeaky handle. Look at that. Wow, what a difference. Just a squeaky little handle. That penetrating oil will work its way in. Let's make sure we go into free spool. That's spinning a whole lot easier too. And that makes sense because if you have an elongated hole in that bushing, it's not going to have a straight axle to spin on. What it's going to do is it's going to kind of wobble in that hole, right? There you go. Make sure that we click back out with the free spool release. Tom's got a nice reel to go fishing with again. Well, that was quite an interesting find there. I don't see that all the time. And it was just curious because it looked like something was out of place with the bearing there, or the bushing. Turns out it was in the right place. But what we did learn is that over time, that inner hole on that plastic bushing did elongate, causing the wobble on the shaft. Wow. Okay. Before I leave, I want to thank you, the viewers, for watching and helping make the channel everything that it is. Your comments, your continued support, and your requests, and the vibrancy of the channel commentary section just makes it what it is. Thank you. Also want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. Truly appreciate everything it is that you do day in and day out, your career choice, and your dedication to keeping us out of harm's way. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.